In February 2026, the world stopped as a London judge delivered a stunning ruling. Prince Harry was granted full custody of Archie and Lilibet. Meghan Markle, blindsided and emotional, broke down in tears as cameras captured the moment. The courtroom verdict wasn't just legal, it was history rewritten. The judge's decision shocks the world. On February 6, 2026, the world stopped as breaking news erupted from Central Family Court, London. Prince Harry had been awarded primary custody of Archie and Lilibet. The decision, reached after weeks of sealed hearings, marked one of the most extraordinary rulings involving a royal family member in modern British history. Outside the court, chaos erupted. Reporters from BBC, Sky News, and international outlets crowded behind barriers as lawyers emerged carrying sealed case files marked Royal Confidential Custody. Moments later, the headlines flashed worldwide. Judge grants Harry custody, Meghan in tears. Inside Montecito, paparazzi lenses caught Meghan Markle leaving her California residence visibly distraught, her tearful expression dominating global broadcasts. It was the image that defined the story, not a scandal or speech, but emotion laid bare. Within hours, hashtags like #RoyalCustody and #JusticeForArchie trended across platforms, splitting global opinion. According to court reporters, the judgment was based on comprehensive welfare evidence and international coordination under UK jurisdiction. The court's findings reportedly emphasized stability, schooling continuity, and a secure environment free from media exploitation. While details remained sealed, sources hinted that Harry's petition had been strengthened by his consistent ties to UK educational and security institutions, which contrasted with Meghan's transatlantic residence and professional obligations. Legal experts called it a modern precedent in royal law, blending private family court procedure with constitutional weight. One family law barrister told The Guardian, "This case was unique, not because of who they are, but because of the stakes. The court had to decide between privilege and protection." The royal family remained silent, though aides confirmed that the Crown's Child Welfare Council had been briefed prior to the ruling. Even the Prime Minister's office declined comment, citing judicial independence. But behind palace walls, insiders spoke of quiet relief, the belief that the decision reflected not punishment, but stability. Internationally, reactions were polarized. In Los Angeles, Meghan's supporters condemned the judgment as biased. In London, tabloids celebrated it as a restoration of royal order. The entire episode transcended gossip. It became a global reckoning on duty, parenting, and privilege. Yet, for all the spectacle outside the court, the true story began months earlier, long before the cameras, long before the tears, inside sealed chambers where legal strategies, parenting disputes, and royal responsibility collided in silence. How did it come to this? Behind the legal move. The custody war that stunned the world in February 2026 had been quietly brewing since autumn 2025, hidden behind the polished smiles of public appearances. According to confidential legal leaks, Prince Harry's solicitors at Farrer and Comey first filed a notice of motion in October 2025, citing parental coordination breakdown and educational instability. The filing sought shared guardianship, but evolved into a full custody request after a series of missed communications and conflicting schedules between California and London. Harry's legal team argued that the children, Archie, 7, and Lilibet, 5, needed continuity within the UK's structured educational and security systems. They emphasized the children's royal lineage, security clearance requirements, and connection to Windsor's royal schooling program, presenting evidence of long-term plans supported by palace education liaisons. A senior advisor quoted in the Telegraph said, "It was about environment, not ego. Harry's side built a case on consistency." Meanwhile, Meghan's lawyers from Los Angeles firm Kaplan and Reese LLP countered with claims of domicile rights under California family law, asserting that her professional commitments and established home environment provided emotional stability. Her team painted Harry's move as reactive and institutionally driven, an extension of palace control rather than paternal concern. The legal clash intensified when a sealed brief was delivered to Windsor Castle on January 20th, 2026, marked "Immediate Custodial Concern." The dossier allegedly contained flagged welfare inconsistencies and references to interrupted communication between Meghan's US-based representatives and UK liaison officers managing the children's schooling transitions. It was this brief, later dubbed the Windsor File, that reportedly triggered the royal family's internal monitoring protocols. In his closing remarks, the presiding judge invoked the cornerstone of family law. The best interests of the children must outweigh geography, status, or influence. The phrase became the moral center of the case, quoted by media outlets across the world. When judgment was handed down, it was clear. This was no institutional takeover, but a legal response to disarray. The decision, though devastating for Meghan, was framed as an act of preservation, not punishment. And yet, one event above all, a simple withdrawal from school in Santa Barbara, would become the spark that ignited the royal custody storm. Withdrawal from school sparks alarm. The first visible crack in Meghan Markle's custody case appeared not in court, but in Santa Barbara, weeks before the ruling. In late January 2026, administrators at El Encanto Academy, the private school attended by Archie and Lilibet, noticed something alarming. Without prior notice, both children were formally withdrawn from enrollment by Meghan's legal representatives. No replacement school, no future address, no transition documentation, only silence. Within 48 hours, the school's welfare officer filed an internal alert under California's Educational Stability Protocol, flagging a lack of safeguarding coordination. That report, quietly passed through consular channels, reached UK education liaisons responsible for royal minors. It was procedural, but it raised every alarm, said one senior official later quoted in the Times. "When royal children disappear from routine systems, it isn't bureaucracy. It's crisis." The withdrawal soon became a central exhibit in Prince Harry's legal petition. His attorneys argued it showed a breakdown in educational continuity, while Meghan's team maintained it was a temporary pause for family travel and private tutoring. Yet, the absence of verification documents, medical appointments, or new academic registration strengthened doubts about planning and stability. By January 31st, communications between Meghan's US advisors and British child welfare officers had reportedly ceased. According to palace insiders, this triggered what's known internally as the Windsor Watch List, an emergency coordination step reserved for situations posing potential risk to royal minors. Within hours, the case escalated beyond standard family proceedings. Royal aides described the mood at Windsor Castle as tense, but procedural. "No one wanted interference," said one insider, but the absence of transparency made it impossible to ignore. For a monarchy rooted in safeguarding legacy and lineage, even the perception of instability demanded a response. The incident rippled across official channels, reaching senior figures by the first week of February. It was no longer speculation or media noise. The welfare of two royal children was now an institutional matter. And behind closed doors, Princess Anne was already preparing to act. What followed next was unprecedented, a royal intervention triggered not by scandal, but by silence. And at its center was a single red folder placed before King Charles III, inside Windsor's private study. Red folder at Windsor, palace intervenes. At precisely 9:20 a.m. on February 2, 2026, inside the Windsor Castle Council chamber, Princess Anne entered carrying what witnesses later described as a thick red folder sealed in gold tape. Stamped immediate custodian breach, it contained a full dossier, school withdrawal notices, education reports, missed welfare checks, and documented communication breakdowns. The presentation marked one of the rare occasions in which a senior royal personally escalated a family matter to the monarch. According to sources close to the Privy Council, the file originated from a chain of cross-departmental briefings involving the Crown's Child Welfare Council, the Foreign Office, and education liaisons between California and London. It outlined three key concerns: educational disruption, welfare supervision lapses, and a pattern of unverified decision-making by Meghan's team. The language was clinical but urgent. Princess Anne, long regarded as the royal family's enforcer of duty, reportedly delivered her assessment without ceremony. This is not image management. This is welfare. The statement, later echoed by King Charles III, set the tone for what would become a constitutional turning point in royal family oversight. Following the briefing, Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh was instructed to activate emergency child welfare safeguards, authorizing coordinated psychological and educational support for Archie and Lilibet. Meanwhile, royal solicitors prepared contingency documents to support Prince Harry's custodial motion in the UK family division, ensuring the monarchy's internal records aligned with judicial oversight. By that evening, Prince William had been briefed via encrypted transmission while attending meetings in Manchester, and within hours, he expressed full support for immediate intervention, reportedly remarking, "This is about children, not politics." The palace's decision to act quietly but decisively signaled a shift, no longer deferring to privacy when child welfare intersected with royal duty. Insiders said King Charles authorized a legal review to ensure the monarchy's involvement remained within procedural boundaries. It was a delicate balance, protecting minors while avoiding perception of institutional control. Yet, the message was clear. The Crown would no longer remain passive when royal children's stability was at stake. And with that red folder opened, a chain of rarely used royal mechanisms would soon be set in motion, formalizing a custody battle that history would remember as both inevitable and irreversible. Invoking child welfare protocols. The royal machinery moved into quiet motion on the morning of February 3, 2026, following Princess Anne's emergency briefing to the King. At Windsor Castle, a closed-door session of the Crown's Child Welfare Council was convened for the first time since 1982. The meeting's agenda was simple, yet monumental: protect Archie and Lilibet. Within hours, the Royal Legal Secretariat drafted a confidential memorandum titled Child Safeguard Activation Order, outlining a series of temporary protective measures. These included passport freezes, restricted international travel without dual authorization from the Princess Royal and the Privy Council's Child Protection Representative, and full suspension of any public or commercial use of the children's likenesses under the Windsor Privacy Act, 2023. This act, designed after the Sussex media controversies, now became a constitutional firewall. Sources inside the Home Office confirmed that parallel coordination was established with UK border authorities to ensure enforcement. The measures weren't punitive, explained one insider to The Telegraph. They were procedural, ensuring stability until legal clarity returned. Simultaneously, the Crown Education Division implemented interim schooling continuity plans, partnering with independent educators in London to ensure the children's instruction could continue privately without disruption. A newly established fund, the Royal Restoration Trust, was quietly announced. A £12 million initiative designed to guarantee the emotional and educational welfare of royal minors facing family crises. Behind the scenes, emotional welfare took equal priority. A small circle of child therapists and counselors under the royal household's Family Liaison Program were discreetly assigned to oversee the transition process. Princess Catherine and Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh were named as supervisory trustees to monitor progress. Observers noted how swiftly and silently the palace adapted to modern child protection standards. The monarchy, often accused of formality and delay, had now responded with efficiency and empathy. Yet, to critics abroad, the optics were undeniable. It looked like the Crown had formally stepped into Meghan Markle's parental domain. Still, as one senior aide put it, there was no vengeance here, only responsibility. The system existed for precisely this reason: to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Transition. But the palace knew it needed to explain itself, not to the tabloids or critics, but to the world. The moment demanded a statement, and only one royal could deliver it with both clarity and command. Princess Anne. The monarchy draws a line. The morning of February 5th, 2026, brought a defining moment for the modern royal family. Standing before assembled journalists in St. James's Palace, Princess Anne, calm, poised, and unmistakably resolute, delivered a statement that would echo across Britain. Her tone was measured, the message unmistakable. The monarchy's duty to child welfare would never yield to media pressure or personal ambition. The Crown, she said, acts not in sentiment, but in safeguard. These decisions are not judgments upon character, but obligations under continuity and care. Her words carried institutional weight, yet offered human compassion, a difficult balance only Anne could achieve. Behind the scenes, the Royal Communications Office had debated whether to issue any statement at all, wary of inflaming tensions. But King Charles III personally approved Anne's address, believing transparency was the only path forward. The official release clarified that the recent court and palace measures were taken under lawful advisement and with child welfare as the sole priority. The speech effectively separated the monarchy from accusations of interference. "This is not about control," Anne asserted. "It is about protection." Within minutes, news outlets across the UK hailed her as the voice of reason in a storm of speculation. Even critics who had once dismissed royal interventions praised her restraint. Public reaction was sharply divided, but emotionally charged. Supporters lauded the palace for defending Archie and Lilibet's privacy, while Meghan's allies in California condemned the move as institutional overreach. Yet, one sentiment cut through both sides: admiration for Anne's composure. In Downing Street, the Prime Minister reportedly told aides the Crown's approach had been impeccably constitutional. Inside Buckingham Palace, relief mingled with weariness. The monarchy had drawn its line, and it had done so without descending into spectacle. By day's end, Anne's message was clear. The monarchy would no longer remain reactive to media narratives or emotional manipulation. Its compass was duty, not drama. And while the Crown projected calm, another institution, the entertainment industry, was beginning to tremble. For the first time, Meghan's professional world would feel the full aftershock of a royal judgment. Media collapse. following the ruling. By mid-February 2026, the ripple effects of the custody verdict reached the very industry that had once built Meghan Markle's post-royal persona. Within days of the central family court ruling granting Prince Harry primary custody, entertainment executives began quietly closing doors that had long been open. The first major blow came from Netflix. Executives in Los Angeles confirmed that all pending Sussex-related projects, including a children's animated concept and a personal documentary pitch, were formally placed on indefinite hold. While no public statement was issued, internal correspondence cited brand stability concerns amid developing legal sensitivities. Within 48 hours, Spotify followed suit, quietly removing promotional traces of the Sussex name from its corporate channels. Industry analysts immediately linked the shift to the custody crisis. No global platform wants to appear entangled in royal legal drama, said Fiona Ray, media consultant at The Guardian. What once looked like storytelling now looks like liability. In Hollywood, brand managers grew cautious, urging clients to avoid proximity to unpredictable narratives. Even Meghan's US-based talent agency, WME, reportedly reduced active engagement, describing her brand as being in strategic reassessment. The collapse wasn't limited to entertainment. Across corporate PR networks, brand partners began re-evaluating affiliations with the Sussex image, fearing reputational risk. One executive at a luxury wellness brand described the moment bluntly: "No one wants to market around tears, tension, and custody hearings." Meanwhile, in the UK, public opinion shifted sharply. Headlines once sympathetic to Meghan's independence now questioned her strategy. The Telegraph ran the headline, "From Archetype to Aftershock, when image outran integrity." The once global fascination had curdled into fatigue. Within the palace, the tone was restrained but unsurprised. "It was always about trajectory," one senior aide remarked. When personal branding collides with institutional gravity, the brand always breaks first. By late February, the entertainment world's silence spoke louder than any royal decree. The message was clear. Reputation now outweighed relevance, and Meghan's once glittering media empire had entered a slow, deliberate retreat. Yet behind the headlines and contracts lay something more profound: the human cost of ambition, emotion, and consequence. Inside Montecito, tears were no longer political. They were personal. The human toll, emotional fallout. By February's final week, the cameras turned from courtrooms and boardrooms to emotion. Inside her Montecito mansion, Meghan Markle was said to be overwhelmed, not by public scrutiny, but by loss. Sources close to her inner circle described visible exhaustion, long silences, and private tears as the reality of the court's decision sank in. Footage captured days earlier, Meghan leaving a private meeting, eyes wet and expression drawn, circulated widely. Commentators debated the context: grief, frustration, or shock. Either way, the image became iconic. The face of a woman who had built her life around narrative, now trapped within one she couldn't control. Behind the scenes, insiders spoke of tension between Harry and Meghan, worsened by geographical and legal distance. Prince Harry, still bound to his new custodial duties in the UK, reportedly sought supervised visitation frameworks that allowed structured emotional continuity for the children. His statements to legal representatives emphasized stability, routine, and unconditional connection. Royal aides, wary of public intrusion, coordinated quietly to protect the children's privacy while offering counseling through the Royal Family Welfare Office. It was about shielding innocence from spectacle, said one palace official. Meanwhile, public discourse split in two. Some saw Meghan's tears as human vulnerability, a mother grieving lost custody. Others viewed them as symbolic consequence, the price of choices that blurred family and fame. The BBC, in a reflective segment titled "The Crown, the Court, and the Cost of Control," concluded, "This isn't victory or defeat, it's the collapse of an illusion." Even sympathetic commentators admitted the emotional unraveling was impossible to ignore. She wanted autonomy, but she underestimated the power of structure, said historian Dr. Anna Whitelaw. The crown doesn't bend, it absorbs. In the end, Meghan's tears weren't for headlines, but for history, marking the moment when royal duty and personal ambition finally diverged for good. And while emotion filled Montecito, the crown was already looking forward, toward structure, legacy, and the protection of royal children beyond the reach of turmoil. Crown's long-term objectives. By March 2026, Buckingham Palace had shifted from crisis management to long-term reform. The aftermath of the custody ruling wasn't just a family matter anymore. It became an institutional blueprint. Within palace walls, senior officials, led by Princess Anne, Princess Catherine, and Prince Edward, quietly established a new Royal Child Welfare Panel, tasked with ensuring transparency, stability, and educational continuity for all royal minors. The Windsor Custodial Charter, ratified by the Privy Council on March 14th, formalized the monarchy's position on child protection. It mandated oversight mechanisms for education, emotional health, and privacy, effectively preventing royal children from ever being used as public assets or commercial leverage again. The Crown's statement read simply, "The welfare of the young precedes all privilege, publicity, and politics." Under the new framework, Archie and Lilibet's schooling was restructured under the supervision of the Royal Education Trust, ensuring stability between the UK and US systems. Funding from the Royal Restoration Trust provided private counseling and transition care, emphasizing emotional continuity rather than image. To symbolize unity, the palace released a single photograph on March 20th, 2026, Princess Charlotte gently holding Lilibet's hand during a family gathering at Windsor Castle. The image, subtle but powerful, spread worldwide. It wasn't a publicity shot, it was a message. The next generation stands together, unbroken by conflict. Observers called the reforms the quiet revolution of Windsor. For a monarchy often accused of clinging to tradition, this was evolution in real time. As royal historian David Pemberton remarked on ITV, it's not about titles now, it's about trust. The Crown's long-term objective was clear: build systems that outlast personalities and protect lineage without spectacle. But even as the institution stabilized, one question lingered. What would become of Meghan Markle, now isolated in California, and Prince Harry, caught between two worlds, fatherhood and duty? What this means for Meghan, Harry, and the future. By April 2026, the world had moved from shock to reflection. The custody decision between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had not only redrawn their family dynamic, but had redefined the relationship between the monarchy and modern media. For Meghan, the repercussions were profound. Her brand, once built on empowerment and independence, now struggled under the weight of public skepticism. Former allies turned cautious, and her once flourishing Archewell Foundation faced dual reviews by both UK Charity Commission and US regulatory boards, freezing several major initiatives. She's facing not just legal reality, but image fatigue, one Los Angeles publicist told Variety. Harry, meanwhile, settled into an unexpected role, a single father within royal structure. Insiders described him as exhausted but resolute, balancing paternal duty with his desire for privacy. For the first time since Megxit in 2020, his public approval in Britain rose, and a perception of redemption. "He looks like a Windsor again," said the Telegraph. Inside the palace, the prevailing tone was cautious optimism. The monarchy had not sought humiliation, only stability. The custody ruling had restored control to tradition while reinforcing boundaries between private lives and public narratives. For the world, the lesson was universal. Emotion and ambition might command attention, but structure and accountability endure. As one closing segment on BBC Newsnight summarized, "This wasn't the end of a family, it was the rebirth of an institution." And so, beneath the weight of headlines and heartbreak, one truth emerged. Crowns may carry history, but custody defines legacy. By April 2026, the dust had settled, but the echoes remained. Prince Harry stood as guardian, Meghan faced isolation, and the monarchy reclaimed its moral center. What began as a custody battle became a lesson in consequence, proving that even love, privilege, and power can be overruled by duty.